When the cavalry display goes on, I'll give a few words of instruction, if I may. My name is Ian Eagleson, but at the weekend I double as Colonel James Wynne, who was the first colonel of what later became the 5th Enniskillen Dragoons. In 1688, 3 regiments of foot and 2 regiments of dragoons were formed in Enniskillen, County Fermanagh. John Cunningham led the 1st Regiment of Dragoons, and James Wynne was awarded the commission for the 2nd. Enniskillen is well known by its emblem and its motif, which is the water fort. Enniskillen, like many Irish towns, is formed and that controlled the fort for many centuries, and they built the first fort. And as James carries the regimental flag out of the arena, you'll see the water fort on the regimental flag. It's much smaller than foot soldiers' flags of that period. The guidon is the French name for a cavalry flag. That name is used universally. It's not limited to France. You see the unique dovetail effect of the flag. Now, the dragoons that are riding are all wearing a red livery. Now, red is not immediately associated with the British Army. It's also the livery of the House of Stuart. So King James's troops all invariably wore a red tunic. But so did the parliamentary troops who arrived here in 1689, 1690 and onwards. Red was chosen for a very economical reason. It was the cheapest dye. Officers could afford a slightly deeper, more richer colour, a scarlet, and I'm wearing the uniform of a colonel. What did differentiate the regiments was the facings on the cuffs of their coats. You'll see the old gold or yellow facing. It's on the saddle blankets as well as the flag. If you look closely, you'll see that water fort motif on the saddlecloths as well. I'm moving around here for at least 2 reasons. One, I've forgotten the drill and they might ride over me in a minute. Yep. And 2, my horse likes to keep on the move. The drill that they're practicing and rehearsing here has taken weeks and months to, well, you judge for yourself. But if you see a foot out or one mistake, you let me know, because they'll be put over it again tomorrow and the next day till we get it right again. But as with cavalry at that time, it was crucial that they were able to move en masse and obey instructions. One of the manuals of the day, written by Richard Paint and Carrickfergus, who later became a very important man in the British Army, said of cavalry, the only thing they needed to know was their point in the line. The lead officer would give direction, they just had to follow. But the manoeuvres in trot, in canter, and walk, all have to be practiced. There is an account of a cavalry display, full regiment, almost 400 men out, doing display and rehearsal, their manoeuvres in London in the 1700s. When they came back, the wounded you could count on 2 hands, and there was 2 dead. It's not easy to manoeuvre 300 or 400 men on horse in the field. And to give you an idea, the biggest set battle in the 1600s in Ireland, at the Boyne, there were 35,000 troops in the army of King William and approximately 25,000 in the army of King James. 60,000 men. The cavalry detachments with William had in excess 10,000. The war in the 1690s was in Ireland was typified by not large set battles. It was really only the Boyne and the Battle of Akron, but was siege and small skirmishes. So there were sieges, of course, at the city of Derry, Carrickfergus. There was 2 sieges at Limerick. There was a siege at Galway. And the holding of those strategic ports and strategic towns was vital to winning or losing a war. But there was almost always in the background small skirmishes with small detachments of men. And there's many accounts of the Enniskillen Dragoons going into the field with maybe 100 Fusiliers and 20 or 30 Dragoons, foraging all around the counties of Monaghan, Sligo, and Fermanagh. There was, in effect, a war in the west around Sligo and Boyle and down through the west of Ireland, Ballyshannon and Fermanagh. There was also a war on the east coast, and King William didn't like to leave his troops unsupplied, and the Royal Navy kept a close watch on the east coast while the army moved